"All I had to do," Tammy said, "was make Linda May look like she couldn't work with the team." One of the women suddenly stopped smiling. Her eyes moved toward the corner of the screen. "Tammy," she whispered. Tammy ignored her. "Give it another week, and Mr. Wallace may push her out himself." "Tammy!" "What?" The woman pointed. "Your microphone is on." Tammy looked down. That little red microphone light was glowing like Rudolph's nose in a snowstorm. "Baby, if you're going to lie on somebody, at least make sure the little red microphone light isn't glowing." But I'm getting ahead of myself. I first heard this story from my friend Linda May during a church potluck and quilting afternoon. She was normally cheerful, but that day she was pulling her thread so tightly I couldn't tell whether she was sewing a quilt or preparing to tow a truck. I leaned closer and said, "Linda May, that fabric hasn't done anything to you." She sighed. "Something happened at work this week, and I still don't know whether to laugh, cry, or thank the Lord for modern technology." Every woman around that quilting frame stopped sewing, and Linda May began her story. Linda May had worked at that company for nearly 9 years. She handled client accounts, corrected billing problems, and kept better records than most people kept family recipes. She was kind, dependable, and not interested in office gossip. Tammy was different. She was pleasant when the boss was nearby, but the minute he left the room, her voice dropped and somebody else's name came up. She also had a private group chat where screenshots traveled faster than truth. One Monday morning, Tammy made a mistake on an important client account. She entered the wrong date, attached the wrong approval form, and sent the order through before it was ready. The mistake could have been fixed. It might have caused some embarrassment and extra paperwork, but that was all. The problem was Tammy's performance review was coming up and she wanted a promotion, so she walked over to Linda May's desk, carrying an extra cup of coffee. Linda May said that should have warned her immediately, because Tammy had worked beside her for 4 years and had never brought her coffee without wanting something. Tammy lowered her voice. "I just need you to change the date in the system and remove the original email. Then we can say shipping caused the delay." Linda May looked at her. "Shipping didn't cause it." "I know, but nobody will question it." Linda May pushed the coffee aside. "No. We can correct the account, but I'm not changing the record or blaming somebody else." Tammy's smile disappeared. "You're making this harder than it has to be." Linda May answered, "No, Tammy. The mistake made it hard. Telling the truth is how we keep it from getting worse." Tammy picked up the extra coffee and walked away. And Linda May said that was the moment she realized the coffee had never been a gift. It was bait. Tammy did not argue with Linda May again, at least, not to her face. By lunchtime, she had already told 2 co-workers that Linda May refused to help fix the account. By the next morning, the story had grown. Now, Linda May was hard to work with. By Wednesday, Tammy was saying Linda May had embarrassed her on purpose and acted like she was better than everybody else. Then came the screenshot. Tammy shared part of their message exchange in the private group chat, but she left out the part where she had asked Linda May to change the record. All anyone saw was Linda May's reply, "I'm not doing that." Without the rest of the conversation, it sounded cold. People who had always spoken to Linda May began avoiding her. The break room went quiet when she walked in. One co-worker even stopped eating lunch beside her. Tammy, of course, still smiled. She asked Linda May how her weekend had been and acted like nothing was wrong. Linda May told us, "That woman could change faces quicker than a porch light full of moths." A few days later, Mr. Wallace called Linda May into his office. He folded his hands and said, "I've had several people tell me you've become difficult to work with." Linda May felt her stomach drop. She explained the mistake and told him she had refused to alter the record. But Tammy had gotten there first with her polished little version. Mr. Wallace sighed and said, I just need you to think about how you're coming across to the team." That hurt worse than Linda May expected, because she had told the truth, and somehow she was the one being warned. That evening, Linda May sat at her kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee and Tammy's cropped screenshot still on her phone. Part of her wanted to answer every message, name every name, and drag the whole truth into the middle of that office before breakfast. But she knew gossip never gets cleaner just because a Christian adds her own bucket to it. So Linda May laid the phone face down and prayed, "Lord, I cannot follow every whisper into every room. I cannot explain myself to people who have already decided what they want to believe. You know what happened. You know what I said, what I refused to do, and why I refused to do it." Then she asked God to help her keep her hands clean while He handled the part she could not reach. The next morning, Linda May went back to work. She did not send angry messages. She did not confront the group chat. She simply kept her record straight and did her job. Tammy seemed almost disappointed. People who live on confusion do not know what to do when you refuse to feed it. 3 days later, the department received an invitation to an early video meeting. Linda May clicked accept and thought nothing more about it. She had no idea that before the meeting officially began, Tammy was about to tell the truth herself, and she was going to do it with the microphone on. The video meeting was scheduled for 9 o'clock. Tammy joined a few minutes early, along with 2 co-workers from her private group chat. They assumed nobody important was listening yet. Tammy leaned back in her chair and laughed. "I told you all Mr. Wallace was already watching Linda May. That screenshot did exactly what I needed it to do." One co-worker looked uneasy. Tammy kept going. "She should have just changed the date and helped me. But no, she had to act all righteous. So I made sure everybody knew how difficult she was." Then she admitted the mistake on the client account had been hers. She admitted Linda May had refused to blame the shipping department. And she admitted she had cropped the screenshot before sharing it. "All I had to do," Tammy said, "was make Linda May look like she couldn't work with the team." One of the women suddenly stopped smiling. Her eyes moved toward the corner of the screen. "Tammy," she whispered. Tammy ignored her. "Give it another week, and Mr. Wallace may push her out himself." "Tammy!" "What?" The woman pointed. "Your microphone is on." Tammy looked down. That little red microphone light was glowing like Rudolph's nose in a snowstorm. Then another camera appeared. Mr. Wallace was already in the meeting, and judging by his face, he had heard every word. For a few seconds, nobody said a word. Tammy's face went pale. Then Mr. Wallace leaned closer to his camera and said, "I believe I've heard enough." Tammy tried to laugh. "We were just joking." Mr. Wallace did not smile. "You admitted to falsifying the story, cropping a screenshot, and blaming another department for your mistake." Tammy opened her mouth, but he stopped her. "And before you say your words were taken out of context, I heard the entire context." Then he asked Linda May to join the meeting. When her camera came on, she could tell immediately that something had changed. Mr. Wallace looked ashamed. "Linda May, I owe you an apology. I accepted complaints without properly investigating them." Then he looked at the others. "I thought this company had a communication problem. What we have is a character problem." That was when his eyes finally opened. The gossip, the private chats, the resignations, and the low morale were not separate problems. They were all connected. Mr. Wallace suspended Tammy pending an investigation and ordered a review of the account records and group messages. He also announced that retaliation, altered screenshots, and workplace harassment would no longer be ignored. Linda May told us, "That man started cleaning house like Jesus had called and said he was 5 minutes down the road." And for the first time in months, the people who had been afraid to speak began telling the truth. Mr. Wallace's investigation uncovered more than Tammy's lie. Other employees admitted they had been afraid to speak because they had seen what happened to anyone who disagreed with her. Some had been mocked in private chats. Others had their words twisted. A few good workers had even left the company because they were tired of walking into a building where everybody smiled, but nobody felt safe. Tammy was dismissed for falsifying records and retaliating against Linda May. 2 employees lost their leadership positions, and the company created a new process for reporting harassment and dishonest behavior. Mr. Wallace apologized to the staff. He said, "I spent too much time looking at numbers and not enough time looking at what was happening to the people behind them." Back at the quilting table, Sister Pauline shook her head and said, "Well, the Lord certainly knows how to turn on a microphone." Miss Ruth nodded. "And apparently he knows how to schedule a meeting." Linda May smiled, but she did not celebrate Tammy losing her job. She said, "I was relieved the truth came out, but I was also sad it had gone that far." I asked her how she had kept from fighting back. She looked down at her quilt square and said, "I told the truth where I was asked. After that, I had to trust God with the rooms I couldn't enter. And that stayed with me. People can crop screenshots. They can twist your words. They can whisper in break rooms and private group chats. But they cannot edit what God saw. Psalm 37:6 says, "He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday." So when somebody lies on you, keep your hands clean and your story straight. Do not wear yourself out chasing every whisper. Because sometimes what was said in the break room has a way of finding the conference room. And sometimes God does not need you to defend yourself. He just needs somebody to forget the microphone is on. If this faith story with MeMe made you laugh, hit that like button. And to all my fellow retired friends, subscribe and share for more life humor, country wisdom, and faith-filled reminders that the truth has a way of